Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hello. Today I have with me Lori from The Way of Positive Change, and let me introduce you to her if you don't know who she is. Lori is a psychic tarot reader, and she shares intuitive insights and predictions on political topics, on both current and future events on her channel, The Way of Positive Change. And she also can advise you in matters of love, finance, career, and messages from loved ones. So welcome, Lori.
Thank you. It's so nice to see you again. It's been a few minutes.
It has. And I wanted to tell you, I don't know if I've told you this before, but Lori was the very, very first person I reached out to collaborate with. She wasn't my first collaboration because we had some mix up with like phones. And at the time it was early in both of our channels. So we're like, how do we do this? We don't know. So it kind of like went to the wayside, but I so liked her energy. I loved her channel. I loved her calm demeanor. And so if you didn't know that, Lori, I thought you were the first person I reached out to collaborate with.
I did not know that. Thank you. I feel very honored indeed. Yeah, because I feel the same way about you. In fact, a lot of times people mistakenly, when they comment after the video, they'll say, Kim, this or this or this. Because we both like to keep it on the positive, calming, loving as best as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now more than ever, it's, it's needed. It really is. You can go plenty of places to find people freaking out and being negative and whatever. So, but I think that there needs to be these kind of safe spaces for people to feel positive and comfortable. I did some political reading with Debbie on Friday, and I wasn't very positive.
I saw that.
I was pretty irritated.
I saw that.
But you also have to, we're human beings, right? We're doing this through a human vessel, and you have to honor that side of yourself as well.
You were saying everything I was thinking. So I was like, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
We were all upset.
Yeah. And I think, anger, I've read on anger before with my guides, and I'm sure that you've talked about different kinds of energies with your guides as well. And I know that they've always said that anger isn't a great emotion, but sometimes when you dip into anger, it can move you. It can make things have movement. When you sit in depression or helplessness, hopelessness, those are very sticky energies. They keep you stuck, and fear too can do that. But anger is one of those things that can move, and it can still move. And so it depends on what you do with that anger. If you go protest, or if you write a letter, or if you send money, or it's better to send it when you're not feeling that way, but it can be a movable energy. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Definitely. It's about your intention. And yeah, if you're angry and feeling empathy for Biden or who, go ahead and send it off, anger and all, if you want to. It is very motivating.
Yes.
And then sending can be liberating.
Absolutely. And I think that you've seen a lot of anger, with with different rights being taken away. It's the injustice can make you angry, and so you seek justice. I think about John Lewis used to talk about good trouble, right? You get in good trouble. You're doing it for a good cause. And like I said, I don't think it's the best emotion to stay in, but it can give you that little push that you may need to start doing something. And Gina says guilt is another sticky emotion. Yeah, absolutely. Guilt, shame. Yeah, absolutely.
Those are all sticky.
Yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to kind of have this conversation about kind of first talking about your own spiritual journey and how this started for you. just so people can get to know you and what brought you to reading for other people. So where did it start for you, Lori?
It started with dreams from a very small age. I have no idea how old I was when it started, but just was, I would see bits and pieces in a dream, and then it would end up happening in front of me. So whether it was standing in green grass staring at a bunny rabbit, and then going to a park 5 days later standing in green grass with the bunny rabbit around my feet, things like that. So
Now, that is so interesting, because if you didn't remember your dreams, it would be deja vu. You'd feel like, you'd be like, it would feel like deja vu once you saw the bunny rabbit, if you didn't really have recollection fully of the dream. But that tells me too that you must have been very psychic as a kid to not only get the dreams, but to remember them, and then to know that, oh, I just saw this in a dream. That's unique. That's very unique.
You work with it, but it's exactly like you said. Everybody does it, because I don't know of anyone that hasn't had a feeling of deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
They saw it. They saw the future, and they are still sort of remembering it, but they don't remember the whole sequence of the dream.
Right, exactly. And how did you deal with this as a child? Did you use it? Did you understand it could be like a superpower, that not everyone could do it?
I didn't understand it, and sometimes it felt comfortable, sometimes it didn't feel comfortable, because my dad watched the news a lot.
Oh, wow.
And so that was I would dream about some things in the news, and then that became, I would wake up screaming, and my parents would like have to, take me in the bathroom and throw water in my face.
Oh,
I
wow.
was
Almost
screaming.
like night terrors in a way.
They were, yeah, they were, because I
Wow.
was seeing war and stuff like that. So
Right.
I didn't know that's what it was. It was just people screaming at that time. But
Gotcha.
yeah, so they couldn't really, they didn't understand what was happening with me. So when I got older, I went to when I could drive myself, then I went to a bookstore called Planet Earth. It was the first big metaphysical bookstore down here, and I met the owner, and I got to become very good friends with her. I ended up working there, and then being a manager there. And when you get into one of those kind of great bookstores, you just go a little bit over here, and you pick up this book, and then you go this way, and then you pick up this book. So I just studied everything. While I was waiting to do readings on my weekends off from the hospital, every other weekend, I would just read as much as I could on every topic I could get my hands on.
Wow. And what age was that? Was that?
First time I spoke to her, I was 17. I think I drove there.
Oh, wow.
And then it was just on through the years.
Wow. So, and was there ever a time has this always been part of your life, or was there ever a time you pulled back from it in any way, or was it always just full throttle?
Well, I pulled back, I think, when I was working a lot in the emergency room, and I was raising children and taking them to all of their games. And my parents got sick when I was, 30, 31, 32, and they ended up dying not too many years later than that. So that was all, so a lot of it was on the back burner at that time when things got a little cray.
When your parents passed, did you have any spiritual experiences around those particular passings?
I knew.
Either before, during, or after?
Yeah, I mean, I knew technically when my mother was going to go, because she was in my house and I was in her room, and I pretty much knew I wouldn't leave her room. And my dad, I didn't really want to know. And it's harder when you're very close to the person, because it's really, you're so invested in emotionally with them. So and I know that your mom just went to heaven, and so my condolences, and it doesn't, it's still raw, even though it's years later. If you're fortunate enough to have a good, relationship with your parents, and it's always raw.
Well, and I think, along with that, when you're going through something like that, especially if you're in the caretaker role, it really is just putting one foot in front of the other.
It is.
It doesn't mean your guides aren't there and you're not surrounded by love and support, but you're so focused in on the physical and what's going on in the physical realm, which is that's what we do here, right? It's kind of, we're fade in and out. We fade into the 3D, and then we kind of fade out and go put a foot in the spiritual realm, and that's what we do here because we're in a physical world.
Right. And when you're caring for a loved one, they'll have dreams of other people when they're getting ready to go or close, or they'll have dreams about other relatives that have passed. Like my dad would say, well, I would say, who are you talking to? And he said, well, I'm talking to Benny. He's sitting right there. Can't you see him? I'm like, okay, sure. I can see him. Hey, Benny. So they do that. That happens. And it happened when I took care of people, in the ER, or same thing.
It's funny because that just kind of sparked a memory of my mom when she was, we were all kind of on watch as she was passing. And the only thing she kept saying to us was, can you get all these people out of this room? Can you get all these people out of this room? And it's like just one of us sitting there. We're like, okay, but that's what it is, right? They're and we could, my sister and I do this work, so we could feel the room filling up with energy, with people waiting for her, waiting to welcome her. And it was just so funny because that I hadn't thought about that, but that's exactly right. They can feel it. The closer they get. How interesting. And so, Lori, what drew you to the tarot cards in particular? Because you have a very strong, unique, you really, your cards really sing to you. And so what drew you to the tarot cards?
I picked up the Ching. When I was going down, in each aisle of the bookstore, I was picking up different. So it was I Ching, runes, astrology, and then the cards, and then it was and pendulum and some other things, and it was just the cards just spoke to me.
And when you read, can you explain what the process of, so you lay down cards and then what happens to you? Is it all things happening? Do you start to see things, hear things, feel things, or is it mostly just complete absorption into the cards and kind of reading them intuitively? What happens to you when you read the cards?
The cards are a tool. They do talk. They do speak to each other. They do face each other, especially the royal cards. But when I shuffle for each person and then I lay them out in the 12th house astrological spread, so I can tell what's going on in every area of their life. But it's very much like when you scribble. So I'm doing something with my hands and I'm seeing pictures up here like you do. Same,
right?
That same thing. So it's a combination of all those things. And sometimes I'll smell something, or the person I'm reading for, their ancestor will show me, like the other day I saw a squash. And so, I knew the person needed to eat that kind of squash that needs that sort of nutrient, or or someone's asking about a kid and I see a horse totem. So, a lot like that.
That it's fascinating because it seems like it is a tool for you, but it's also a tool that turns on your own physical abilities, your clairvoyance, it sounds like, in the smells. And do you ever get other physical things like chills or things like that, or aches and pains where people had aches and pains, or anything like that?
Yes, I'll get chills when I know we're on the right subject matter, and then I'll ask the other person if they have them too. So that will happen. And then many times if someone's not speaking their truth, I'll cough, or
Oh.
those kind of things. But I don't, uh, my guides, I don't like to see blood. I know I worked in the emergency room, right? In trauma.
You've seen enough.
I don't like to see blood. Well, I don't, not in my personal, if I go somewhere and see it, that's one thing, but not in my personal space. So they're very careful with me. They know that I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to see, I want to hear if someone died, I want to hear what they were thinking, but not maybe something sticking out of them or something like that.
Right. And my guides are very careful with things about kids, gratuitous violence like that. It would, I think that, when you have, and people should know this as well, when you have boundaries that you set, your guides are so respectful of them. And even people that come in, other spirits that come in are very respectful of it because they don't want you to shut down. They want you to stay open. And they know that those things that scare you or make you uncomfortable or freak you out, that's going to shut you down, right?
Yes. Yeah. They're very, very caring, very filled with empathy, very compassionate and filled with empathy. And they know we're trying to help someone. So they want to continue to work with us.
But they're clever, right? Because they get us to say I've found that they get us to say certain words or say certain things that we may not, but they really do have there's a cleverness to them in the way that they work with us and the way that they know us so well and the way our human brain works. I remember one woman I was trying to bring in someone was trying to come in, and I kept saying, all I'm seeing is, and I don't get names usually. I'm not good with names. I don't get names, and I'm not really sure why, but it's kind of something I'm like, I just don't get names, and I don't know why. But I kept seeing my sister Pam, and I kept saying, and then I finally just said out loud, and I kept thinking that can't be right because that's my sister. And this was when I first started reading, and I was like, that cannot be right. That's my sister. Why would my sister be coming in? So I just said, I'm so sorry. All I keep seeing is my sister Pam, and she's like, that's her name, Pam. So I was like, so they get you to say things, even though we can be very resistant because it's like, this doesn't make any sense to me, And then that's also when you realize you don't have context. You just need to you just need to say it, right?
Yep, exactly.
And that's that flow that you want to get into. Is
Yes.
that just see it and say it, or feel it and say it, that kind of flow that you get into, and that trust you need to build. Do you feel like, how long did it take you? Did you always trust your guides, or did it take time to trust them?
It's still happening.
I know, me too.
Honestly, it's still happening. One of the funniest things, I was reading for one younger lady, and she wanted a message from her dad, and all I could see was, all I could hear was, tell her she does not need to put ketchup on everything. And it's like, I am not saying that. I'm not. What if she doesn't put ketchup on anything? But then when I just went ahead and, when I heard it again, then I said it, and the person laughed until they cried, because she put ketchup on a lot of things. So it's still happening.
Right. And yeah, it's an ongoing process. And I find that I trust them a lot more with other people than I do sometimes myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be like, I'm just going to try this anyway. And then of course I do. And it makes everything much harder for me. You'd think I'd learn, but
it's a process. Everyone's learning.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. It's an ongoing thing. And I think that's why, one reason I felt a need to do this show was because we are all learning. And I think one of the parts that we play in learning is teaching. When we've learned something, to share it. When we think we know something, to share it. And I think that's how this whole how the world changes. Do you think that's,
Yes.
I mean, it seems like it's big, but I do feel like that learning and sharing and growing together, that's how we
It's
do
all
it.
about sharing your experiences, your desires. Even when you're talking about manifesting, if you share what you're working on, other people will help you with it. You know, if you, I always use the example of, if I had a starfish collection and all I needed to complete my collection was a red starfish. If I told every friend and every person that I work with and love, I mean, somebody would find that in their travels, you know. So if you tell, if you share with everyone, I know that's a different kind of sharing, but yeah,
No, I
so
think,
sharing, manifesting, sharing what you learn. Yeah. Sorry.
well, and I do want to talk, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to talk about manifesting. And I wanted to ask you, before we get into kind of talking about manifesting, how do you view material things and money when it comes to your spiritual life? I mean, we have this idea of the monk who gives up everything and just prays. And yet at the same time, we, you know, I would like a new car, or I would like a new, I would like a new vacuum that works, or I would like, and it seems almost like you can feel like you're, it's frivolous. It doesn't matter. Um, so when it comes to material things, money things, how do you intermingle it with your spirituality? How do you view it to make it so that it doesn't, you're not, for example, deciding on prices and things when you do readings and stuff like that? How do you mesh the two?
That was a huge issue for me because I was doing it on the side. So I had to come up with a price, but I wasn't charging enough. And then I wondered why. Maybe somebody I was comparing, which is not the right thing to do, because you can't compare and create at the same time. And I learned that the hard way. So, but people want to pay for their reading. You know, they want to pay, right? If you go to buy flooring, you want good flooring and you want to pay for good flooring, right?
Right.
And then I had to realize that, you know, I had other people say, well, here, why don't you take 50 for this or something? And I would say, no, that's okay. There's like, well, you have to put groceries on the table too. You have bills to pay too. So it's a tool. But even more than that, it's an exchange.
Right.
I give, I receive.
Right.
I inhale, I exhale. It takes a full, it's a balance of the rule. It's the balance of the law of giving and receiving.
And I think that's such a great, I love that, Lori. That's such a great point, because I can only, you know, look at my own experience when I've had readings. I wouldn't think of not wanting to pay for it and not paying for it. You know, it's like that. It's just, you're right. There's something in us that wants to make things even, and balanced. And I love that. And when you first decided, okay, or was it a decision? Did it just kind of happen? Or did you kind of decide, okay, I need to decide what I'm going to charge and how I'm going to charge and what I'm going to offer too? Because I think, as you read, at least for me, and you can talk about this as well, you realize what your limitations are. You realize how long you can read and how long you can't read, and what time of day is best, and all you kind of figure things out as you go. But how did you decide on what you were going to offer and how much you were going to charge? And what was that process like? Was it organic, or was it kind of, I need to sit down and do this and figure this out?
I kept testing new ways. I was over giving, and then I would get spent, and then it wasn't fun anymore. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to redraw, regroup, reboot and say, okay, well, then I had to, it's all progress begins with self-development, right? So it's like I had to realize that I was worthy of receiving for my gifts, for the information. If I'm going to help someone with an investment or with their relationship, or help understand if their mate is ever going to step up to the plate and make a commitment, that's important information. And
Right.
I'm worthy of receiving. So I had a real deal with that. And I know a lot of your viewers, a lot of the light tribe in here is very good at giving and not good at all at receiving.
Right. That is so true. That is so true, because there are so many people. In fact, I've had several readings where people have been like, I've had this problem after this problem after this problem after this problem. And what will come in, what has come in a few times is you are meant to be learning how to ask for help. You're meant to be learning how to reach out to others and ask for things that you need, because they always are also very giving people. And they get frustrated because they want to give and they want to give, but I've had this problem and this problem. I can't do this and I can't pay my rent. But at the same time, they want to give and give. So it's a very frustrating, they find themselves very locked into this frustrating situation. And the point is to get them to get out of that giving and get into the receiving, and knowing that when you allow people to give to you, you're giving them something, because it feels good to give. It feels good to help. And you are blessed when you help someone else. So you're allowing other people to have that experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. I say the same thing. I tell them, when you help someone, you feel good. You feel real good. And when you bring someone a present or surprise, they squeal with delight, right? And you feel so great. So don't rob someone of hearing you squeal with delight. Don't rob them of their joy of being able to provide or help for you, because they want to help too.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge the chat, because everyone's here and they're like, hi, Patricia, Lynn, Debbie K. I'm sure you recognize people, Lori and Seascape and Sharon Sipe. You're a rock star. Thank you for just picking up the the moderating and running with it. And yeah, anybody else that's helping with moderating, thank you so much. But yeah, you're right. It does. It is one of those things. And I also think that, and I'm sure that, because I know we have a lot of artists and musicians and people like that. And I think that sometimes it can be hard too, when you love to do something, to ask for money for it. Because it's kind of like, I love it anyway. Do I need to get paid? But I feel like you're right. It's about the exchange. It's about giving and taking, and allowing other people to be part of that experience.
And artists need to pay their bills.
Yeah.
And they need food, and they need, they're worthy of going out and buying a beautiful blouse for all of the work they did all week long.
Right.
So it's worthy. It's your self-worth and the things that you say to yourself, because we tend to believe what we say to ourselves. So it's important to always say something positive about your worth and positive about your income. Like I might not be able to get that today, but I might be able to get it tomorrow or next week. Don't say I can't afford that, because your word is your want. So you want to really reword it and say, I might be able to get that soon.
Right. So I wanted to share this story with you, because when we lived in Palo Alto in the mid to late 90s, and it was just the beginning of the .com explosion in the Bay Area. And we were just married. So we were living in a little apartment, and we'd go downtown Palo Alto, and just kind of hang out. And we would see Zuckerberg down there, Mark Zuckerberg, hanging around with his wife, and they'd go get ice cream, and they looked like hippies. They had like, t-shirts, shorts, very surfer, Birkenstocks, and everybody would say, oh, they're the nicest people. They're so cool. And my husband got his first advertising position at that time. And he went to his interview, and, growing up in the 80s and having 50s parents or 60s parents, or 50s generation parents, 60s generation parents, he wore a suit to the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came home, he said the weirdest thing happened before I walked out the door. The guy said to me, don't ever come in here wearing a suit again. And so after that, it was t-shirts and khakis from then on. But he's like, it was so cool. It was the best. And I remember having the thought, these kinds of CEOs could change everything.
Mm-hmm.
These kinds of CEOs could change the way we see CEOs. And yet they fell right into the trap of the billion. Once those billions started rolling in, the millions started rolling in, they were all in and becoming the same kind of CEOs we always had. How do you stay mindful of money so that it doesn't become a focus, a major focus, whether with it or without it, right? Because you can be very focused on it if you don't have it, and you can be very focused on it if you do. How do you keep mindfulness of, okay, I'm getting carried away, or okay, that doesn't matter? How do you do that for yourself?
I think the people that I think the people that fall into the greed thing don't have it appears to me when I'm reading for them, they don't have a connection to spirit. They're
Mm-hmm.
not grounded.
Mm-hmm.
They're not loving, and they're not in the law or the flow of gratitude and the inhale, exhale, sharing, receiving, giving thing. They don't have the connection with spirit. So they're constantly trying to achieve more, have more, gather more, thinking that's going to fill that void of love.
Mm-hmm.
And their connection with spirit or God or wherever you are, your angels. And then they get caught up with it. And then they're not even sharing with their friends or family, so staying grounded and with your gratitude and connections and trying to help people and honoring the law is where it's at. So we don't fall into that.
And, tell me if you think this is too harsh, but I feel like people that are the billionaires, that there's some mental illness there to gather and hoard money that you will never be able to spend in your lifetime, that your family probably wouldn't even be able to spend in your lifetime. There's something going on there and it does remind me of hoarding. It reminds me of any time, like you said, the hole in the soul, right? That feeling,
Mhm.
trying to fill that hole.
That's a great way of saying it. The hole in the soul.
Yeah. And you can fill it with money. You can fill it with drugs. You can
It won't work.
Yeah. You can try to fill it with, with food. You can try to fill it with whatever, excessive exercise. You can try to fill it with lots of things. But do you think that's too harsh to say that there's some kind of illness or sickness there?
Addiction
addiction. Yeah.
They just don't view it. They don't have that. They don't have the empathy gene.
Boy, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, you're right.
Whoops, missed that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. And I think once you do become that billionaire, that millionaire, if you didn't have it before, man, is it going to be hard to get it once you're in that class of millionaire and billionaire. It's going to be really tough to get that empathy gene at that point. right?
Oh yeah, because well, then look what company are you keeping?
Right. Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you always want to have your tribe, your group of people that are going through all that are up on this level, and so that you're learning and sharing, like you said, teaching, sharing your experiences.
Right. And along with that, learning and sharing with manifesting. You mentioned manifesting before.
Mhm.
When it comes to manifesting, what do you think people get right and what do you think they get wrong?
Wow, that's huge. I I think that our number one investment is in our self development, right? Because if you're feeling good, you can do anything.
Mhm.
If you don't feel good, if your health, your mind, body, spirit isn't getting more into shape each day, you won't be as successful. And I think uh, people get wrong, I think, when they just pick out pictures, like when you're doing your vision board and you just pick out pictures of a yacht or something like that. You're not really feeling it. You may be going, you might need to keep things more gradient
Mhm.
and pick out your small, your small goals, and once you get them, then change it up a little bit. So I think people go to the extreme sometimes.
Mhm.
They go
Right.
off that gradient scale, and I really think people don't get it right about gratitude, because if you give thanks for if you really spend time in the flow of gratitude, it's the highest form of prayer. And talk about being present, being in the now. If you are sending out quantum waves of love and gratitude for every gift you've ever received, for any time anyone has ever paid for your lunch or got you a bus ticket or anything, any present, any paycheck, uh, you're going to get more. Like Louise Hay said, you're going to get more goodies
Yeah.
if you give thanks. So that's a huge. I think people just miss that. They're just focused on the more money, more things, and they're not that. You hear Greg Braden talk all the time about marrying your feelings to your goals and feeling the gratitude, and then also visioning what it would feel like to already have achieved, or being in the room where you want to be, and drawing on your vision board, drawing, you using your right. That people miss this all the time too. That's a great question, because if you draw the picture of yourself in the situation that you're manifesting, and you put street names and you get those details, you're working your right psychic brain.
Mhm.
Especially if you color in some of those things with your non-dominant hand. So then you're really working in that creative manifestation mode. So gratitude and drawing and staying gradient, small goals first. But first and foremost, you got to feel good. And I think a lot of times people also, I think they think, oh, I can't manifest. I'm like, you already manifested. If you
Mhm.
think back to that first car you wanted, you're already good at manifesting. You got that car. You got Boo Boo to propose, right? You won that prize. You
Right, right.
the first
Moving
car. You got
on.
you got Boo Boo, and your first home, or that pregnancy. You made all those things happen.
Right.
You put your eye on something. You focused on something. You were probably feeling good. You were in the flow, and you've already manifested.
And sometimes don't you think that we can manifest and not realize that we're manifesting? I mean, it happens all the time, right? Because and usually it will be sometimes in not so nice ways, or it will be in a way we weren't fully focused on manifesting, so it comes in a way that's kind of weird. One thing I can think of is one person was like, I want to be able to they were a writer, I want to just be able to write all the time. and not have bills to worry about. Well, they ended up being a caretaker for their parent, and they did have all the time in the world to write. They didn't have to pay any bills, but they didn't recognize it as this was my dream because it didn't come in the way that they thought it would come in. But they got it. That was it. They did focus on it, but maybe it wasn't exactly the way but being able to notice that, oh yeah, this is what I wanted. This is what I manifested, but I didn't know it would come in this package.
That's very powerful. Yeah. And I'm also I'm a word person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you gotta say positive things. People that go around saying, oh, every time I get some money, something happens, and
Mm-hmm.
there it goes. I mean, that is not a positive affirmation. And I'm not talking pie in the sky,
right?
But simply stating, I am open to receive. And I'm open to receive something far greater than I can imagine. Like, I'm open to that too. And so, but yeah, that person absolutely did manifest exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they weren't getting paid.
Right. Right. Forgot that part.
And we need to, but that's like not charging enough, not understanding
right.
your worth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or people that we read for keep giving to all of their kids and their grandkids, and then they wonder why they don't have enough cash. Well, I have to help them. I'm like, wait a second. Are you empowering them or are you crippling them? You know, are you, and then if you're giving them all this stuff now, are they going to be around to help you? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be there to help you. They're not going to have stockpiles of cash to help you out. You better start taking care of yourself today.
Right.
Self-care. Our own self-development is our number one investment. And then we can do anything.
I totally agree with that. And I've gotten that message. I can't tell you how many times, because, and the way that it was explained was a way I could understand it. I like things simple. But it was like, if you're feeling good and happy and content and, have enthusiasm for life and things like that, whenever you do something, whenever you volunteer at a campaign, or you send money somewhere, or you act outside of yourself, that is the energy that flows into whatever action you're doing. If you're negative, angry, worried, scared, and you do an action, even if it's a great action, that energy still flows with it, whatever is going on here. So that's something we say on the channel all the time, is make sure you're good here first, and then act, or then do. But you're right. You can't give from an empty well.
Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Nicely said. Right. Yes.
And the thing about that you said about just saying it, first of all, my dad would always say, every time we'd always go from California to Utah, because all our relatives were in Utah. So we'd go through Nevada, and every time my dad said, oh, I'm going to go in and win the trip. So he'd go into the casino. He'd always win the money for the trip. and then he was done. He wasn't a gambler at all, but he'd just say that every time, I'm going to go in and win the trip. And he would every time he would go in and win the trip. And it was also, like you said, kind of a manageable goal. He didn't go in and say, I'm going to win $1 million. He'd go in and say, I'm going to win the trip. That was it.
That big gradient.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I'm glad that was very nice.
It was. And we'd always say it too. We'd say, oh, you better go win the trip. Are you going to go win the trip? We'd all be part of that manifesting. And then my husband is another one who's like, money always comes in when I need it. He's always said that since I've known him. And you know what? Every time something happens, the car breaks or something, the tax, we were overtaxed. And so here's exactly the amount of money you need for the car. That has always happened for him since I've known him. But he always says that. He always says, money, it's okay. Money always comes in when I need it. That's it. And again, a very manageable, easy, it's not over the top. It's always just like, this is what I need. And does
he
that have like,
believes what he says. We
yeah,
believe what we say. So if you
yeah,
go around and you have this hidden or underlying, if you don't recognize the belief that you have, if you were brought up with parents saying money doesn't grow on trees, or if you have resentments because someone else received something that you don't have, your beliefs, those underlying feelings. But your husband is exactly that. That's wonderful. So you've got great manifestors, and then it always happens.
it absolutely, absolutely, it does. Um, uh, so need versus want, does that make a difference when you, when you're wanting something? Does that energy of want of does that change things versus I need this, or are they equal just depending on, I don't know, how you put it out there?
I always turn to gratitude first. If
Okay.
I need or want something, I give thanks for whatever along those lines I've received, so
Right.
that I can get more goodies. Um, if you're, I think you're probably going to manifest more quickly if you are. You don't want to get crazy with the want, you know. Uh, but also be open to like saying something that this or something far greater than I can imagine.
Right.
Like connect, like when you're doing your most benevolent outcomes. I need money to pay the rent this month. Guardian angel, I'm asking for the most benevolent outcome for the rent money to be perfect and on time. This or something far, or this job, or can I get this job down the street, or I really need this job, or something even far greater.
Right. And you have to be involved, right? You can't just say, well, I'm going to quit my job and just manifest the rent money. And you have to be part of it, right? You have to be kind of actively. I always say the universe meets you halfway, because I always feel like you have to put in the work, and you have to put in your part, but the universe will meet you halfway. Is that a good way to look at it? Or how do you see that?
I think that's awesome, and I mean, I think that's really awesome. I always think about Wayne Dyer when he said that he was at the orphanage, and he was older, but he would. There were only two shovels, and one was sort of broken, and there was one good one, and he knew if he got up early and he shoveled people's driveways in the neighborhood of the orphanage, he could make money. So he slept with the shovel. And then he told people, I want to make money, so he used his voice,
Mhm.
and he took action, and the universe met him more than halfway. He had more driveways than he could shovel, and he was the richest kid in the orphanage.
Wow.
I love
That.
that
I love
story.
that
I
story.
always
I
think
love
about
that
him
story.
sleeping with the shovel.
I love that. I love that. And what about the time factor? Because what I noticed that when I actively tried to manifest, and it was a very specific amount of money. This was way back. This was before I was doing any of this. When I had so I think it was when The Secret came out, so like the early 90s or something. And I was thinking, okay, does this work? And so I did exactly what it said to do. And what I realized was that when I got to the end of that year, I had made the exact amount of money that I needed to make, that was kind of over, just so I could pay my bills. But it wasn't till I looked back, because it was trickling in. It wasn't like this massive windfall. And by the end of the year, I did pay everything off. So it worked out. I didn't, but it also took time. It took a full year to kind of manifest and come in. And I think sometimes we can really, really want something for a week or two, and then we kind of, let it go or forget about it. And then, um, if we do that, are we not giving it enough time? Does it fizzle out, or do we just need to put it out there once and then just kind of wait for it to come in its own time? And what are the time frames, do you think, for manifesting? If it's like, I just need this a new apartment, or I need a new car that's reliable, what time frames are you looking at?
I think what you did is exactly what you believed could happen, and that was gradient and relevant to your situation, and then you weren't shocked. Whereas if somebody would have just dropped or someone gave you a huge promotion, it would be this giant amount of money, you might have
Right.
been frazzled. Or your guides and angels know exactly how much you can handle, and if you'll achieve more, if this is a good amount. Or again, I think it has a lot to do with your beliefs. There's some
Mm-hmm.
people that set a goal and hang on like a pit bull, you know, and
Right.
what and are sleeping with the shovel.
Right.
There's some shovel sleepers going on, and they're going to get the money that the people who sleep in on are
Right.
not going to get. So action, like you said, action is met halfway. But I really think it's about your belief. If this is going to take, because we tend to, if what we say, we tend to believe. So if we think maybe if I can do this by the end of the year, that's doable and gradient for you, and it was.
Right.
When your husband says, well, it doesn't matter if the car breaks, the money will come in, and it does.
You're
So
right.
if you think it's going to take you 2 years to achieve this, it probably is going to take you 2 years to achieve it.
Right. Right. And then what about intention? Because um for me, I feel like I really need to zero in on the intention as to why. What is my why? Why do I want this? And why is it important? If I want a new car because I want to show off to my family and friends how great I am and how flashy I am, versus I want I want a reliable car that will get me to be able to take my kids to school and get me grocery shopping. Does that intention color it at all?
There again, I think it's your belief pattern. If you're 23, that flashy car is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you're not thinking about the safety of the Volkswagen with the kids and dropping them off in the school line, and
Right.
parent pickup or whatever. So it's really about your belief system and where you are. And if you want to marry somebody that's rich because you want the biggest diamond ring in your girlfriend tribe, then you're probably going to get it if that's where
Right.
that's where your focus is. So
Well, and you'll get it, and you'll get all the consequences that come with that.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. He might be a real,
Yeah. Or people use you for money, or you don't know who's your real friend anymore because you
yeah.
have all this money.
And
And
that can go around. Yeah.
yeah.
That's that karma that, you're not going to get that back from the person that you marry, but you're going to get it from someone else that you want to be seen for who you are. And they're only going to see you for the money, someone that you're vested in.
Right.
And it just goes around in a circle.
Right.
Exactly the way you just said. Yeah.
And I think that's why the universe is really neutral on this, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a cause and effect. They want us to have whatever we think we want, because it'll either make us, really satisfied and give ourselves a boost, or it will be a lesson. We'll learn that it ain't so great, or we'll learn something about ourselves. And so the universe is neutral, really, when it comes to what we want or what we need. They want us to. They're happy to to give it. It's not like you said. It really does have to do with our belief. Am I worthy? Do I deserve this? I've never had anything. I've never had any good jewelry, so why should I have any good jewelry now? Those beliefs they get stuck in there. And how do you shake those loose, Lori? Is it just noticing them and saying it out loud? This is a limiting belief that I have.
Yes, and there's a lot of, your word is your wand, and there's a lot of people like Louise Hay that you can heal your life, or Marianne Williamson, The Law of Divine Compensation book helps you to really change, to recognize those underlying belief patterns of, well, I don't deserve that ruby ring, or I can't have that, or what does that person want if they want to pay me a big tip? You know, why are you suspicious with guilt? Or so, yeah, it's just really about being willing to love yourself more, to understand that money is a tool, is to change your relationship with it, because money's a blessing. And if you start thinking about that person's going to feel good because they can give to me, because they can see I'm in need, and then I can do all the things I want with it. And if I feel like I want to share and then pay it forward for someone else, I can do that too.
Right.
If I have more than I need today, I allow someone to give me, then I can share it with someone else. If you get that person to think about they can still give, it might brighten their star about being willing to receive.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope everybody goes out and manifests something and know that they're deserving of whatever that they want, or they feel they want, or they think would enrich their life. I just wanted to get a few little comments in here. And then if you don't mind, I thought we both pull a card kind of for the week, and just the energy of the week.
That would be great.
And so Sparky says timing or manifesting is dependent on circumstance, energy, vibration, just her opinion. But that is, I think, right on. I think so much of it is just that, being in that vibration of what you're hoping for, what you're expecting, what your
expectations are. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, the same word that you were thinking. What are you expecting? What are you feeling? And are you feeling good about yourself? Like, we got to get in the flow.
Right.
And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't get in the flow very easily.
Gosh, is that the truth?
Yeah.
That really is the truth.
Our number one investment.
Yeah, I'm getting back to the physical stuff, trying to eat better and exercise. But the two things that I don't like, I like the least are those two things. But you're right. Everything runs more smoothly. I begrudgingly admit that when you're taking care of your health, everything's better. When you take care of your mind, everything's better. You know, it really is this flow that happens within us. And you're absolutely right.
It's just, everything is easier. If you feel good, you can knock anything out of the park.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Running Sloth says, I think part of the human problem is desiring fulfillment from earthly treasures. And I think that's true. If you're looking for fulfillment, yeah, you're probably not going to find it in a new car. It might be fun, and it might be a real joy for you in your life, but you're right. Fulfillment's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, it's like you said, the hole in the soul.
Yeah.
You can have 10 new cars, and you might be wanting number 11, and you have no connection to your angels, your guides, your inner God voice.
And I love that you added in bring in other people, because I've gotten that message too for people. Let people put it out there. Let people know. There are people that are on your Facebook that can help you. So put it out there, whatever it is. You know, I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for, you know, a whatever, a wheelchair. I'm looking for whatever it is. People are so willing to help, first of all, but also you're right. Get other people invested in your dream too, right?
Yes, and a lot of people think they don't, you know, I hear I'm on a fixed income. I'm like, are you fixing that?
Right.
Or are you open to helping somebody's brother that needs groceries and would love to pay you to go get those groceries?
Yeah.
Like, you know, but you're not going to know about Pam's brother that needs someone to help with groceries and has plenty of money to pay until you tell Pam you need some extra money and you're willing to run errands or be of service. I'd like to make money by being of service to another person.
Right.
And they're like, well, I know. So, you know, Susie just said she needs extra cash and Pam's brother's willing to pay. So let's just go. Boop.
Yep. Absolutely. And I love that. Yeah, that's our first group thing not to fall into, or if you fall into it, fall out of it. My income is fixed. No, my income is fluid.
It's fluid.
It can go up.
Right. I mean, you might get a certain amount from this organization or this or the government or what have you, but there's room to grow all over the place.
Right, right. And Lazan, oh, I love Lazan. Hi, Lazan. Very important message. Thank you. And about understanding and clearing the subconscious desire. And subconscious belief, right? That subconscious belief about ourselves, and maybe there does need to be a little digging of, where did this limiting belief come from? Did it come from my parents? Did it come from my teachers? Where did it come from? Sometimes just seeing it and naming it is enough for it to kind of poof, it just vanishes, because you realize, oh, I've been carrying that around all this time, and it's not true.
Yeah, and a lot of us had parents that went through the Great Depression when they were younger, so
Yes.
they lost homes and refrigerators and cars, and at that time they would come take your refrigerator right out of your house, or your ice box. I think they called it the ice box, things like that. So they were very careful. So they had a lot of anxiety, and that money doesn't grow on trees.
Right.
Who do you think you are? Asking for that. So yeah, those beliefs can be underlying, like you said, and dig them exactly like you said. Just dig them out. And why is that there? Who did that come from? Have I adopted that belief?
Absolutely. It's so funny, because I bet a lot of people can relate to that. I know my grandmother was completely affected by the depression, and just, it was the scariest thing that they ever went through. And they really never let it go, really. It kind of rolled through their life and all the decisions they made, and onto their kids. And yeah, absolutely. Those things can be very powerful. I always start with gratitude before I ask the universe for help. I ask for abundance of happiness, health, and financial stability. That's great. That's a great prayer, Barbara. I love that. All right, so let's pull a card.
Let's do it.
For this week, kind of just the energy, and maybe some guidance for this week, what to focus on, what to look to. And I did get my glasses. There. All right. Oh, mine is, I pulled gratitude. So these are from my cards. This is the number 11, gratitude. Today, my prayer of intention is to have gratitude for all things, people, places, and circumstances that may cross my path today. May I have gratitude for my own life, for spirit, and for life itself.
Wow, I love that. I love that.
And what did you?
Those cards are so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I got a difficult card. I got the 10 of Swords.
Okay, we can take it.
I got the 10 of Swords. So it's get rid of the movies from the past. It only takes one sword to take a person down, and sometimes we're just running those movies and those underlying feelings over and over and over again, and we need to just clear them out, because it's a total of 10, and then the sun comes up in this card, but people forget that the sun is going to come up. It's already been as bad as it could get. So it's about appreciating that, well, that sucked, and it's okay, because today's a new day. Glad I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yes, and I think that on Sundays I should have a drinking game where, because if I mention Eckhart Tolle, you can take a drink of your mimosa, because I do it every Sunday. But he does say that, I have no use for the past. And I feel like that's such a great motto, because it really is just in your mind. It may feel very real when you start thinking back and going back, but you can control going back to the past or not going back to the past. And I think especially, you're right. If, I had a childhood where we were very, very poor, you don't have to go back there. You don't have to go back there. If you've learned everything you can from it, let it go. Because that's all the negative stuff, all that we really need from it is the lesson. So figure out the lesson and then let it go. Don't go back there. Because like you said, it doesn't do any good.
No, and it has nothing to do with what you're creating today. So recognize it, catch it, throw it out.
Love it. I think that's a great, especially when we're looking at the politics and everything else. Yeah, the past is the past, and we're here now, and we can determine the future. We can determine what happens next. There are some things that are, when we look at the future, we're kind of following it. We're following an energy, but we create that energy, especially when it's a collective, like our country. We create that energy, and we decide where it's going.
And this group of all of us hanging out and learning and our light shining brighter every year and growing with so many more people every year.
Yes, exactly. It's totally. And it is manifesting, right? We're manifesting.
Absolutely.
Because we all want the community. We all want this to grow and be part of the.
And it is.
And it is. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Thank you so, so much. I just love this conversation, and tell people where they can find you. I did put it in the description, but let people know what you offer and where they can find you.
Thewayofpositivechange.com. It's an all-inclusive website. You can, if you want to schedule a reading, you can pick your day, your amount of time, your whatever you want to do. Thewayofpositivechange.com. And thanks. And that can be about finances or romance or whatever your heart desires.
Yes, and Lori is on my the list of people that I recommend. She's always
Thank
on
you
that
so much.
because I don't do personal readings like that anymore. So you're on my list, Lori. You're one of the few that I just let people know because you're so good at what you do. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lori, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.